Greetings to you and welcome to this episode of Grace Podcast. I'm Timothy Muse. I'll be your host as we spend this time together. It's a joy to be with you. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for making this podcast a part of your journey. And as always, I want to thank you for being on this journey, for being part of this work, for walking down this road, for having the courage to look into yourself and see the places in life that may need just a little bit of love or attention or grace. Good for you for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making this podcast a part of it. Thank you for allowing me the honor of coming alongside of you. And thank you for having the courage to do it, the courage to take that step. So many people don't. So many people don't have that courage. So many people are just either afraid to look into themselves and see if there's areas that need attention, or are just happy with where they are, pleased with their moment, pleased with their space. But most people just don't want to walk into this pattern. But you do, because you're here, you're listening. Even if you're just beginning. Look, if this is the first episode you're listening to, then welcome aboard. Thanks for tuning in. And thank you for having the courage to at least begin to ask the question. A lot of times, we struggle with what we need to do because we don't just begin to ask the question. So you're asking the question. If you're just asking the question, good for you. If you're on the road, on the journey, whether you find it successful or discouraging, good for you for staying on it. A lot of the greatest things that we do in life, they don't just come easy. They are difficult. They take work and they take investment and a lot of failure and a lot of step backs. So good for you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. If this podcast is helpful, please share it out there. Put it out there in your social media feeds. I post on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and Instagram. If you follow me or the podcast or the Grace Life Coaching on any one of those feeds, you're going to see these episodes. And if you're listening on one of the listening platforms, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Amazon Music, then follow us. Give us a rating and review. Every positive rating and review tells the platform that people are listening. And if you want to reach out to me directly, I would love to hear from you. GraceLifeCoaching.com is the website. As always, there at GraceLifeCoaching.com, you can get a hold of me. It's got my contacts, my DM. You can Facebook me or email me or text me, however you like. If I can come alongside you in some way, if I can help out and help you deal with some things or ask some questions or have some conversation, I'd love to do it. I really, truly would. Any way that I can help out, I would love to come alongside you and do that. And that's really what a coach does. A coach comes alongside people. A coach comes alongside people, helps them to ask the questions, look into things. I can't do the work for you. But I can come alongside you and I can help you as you do the work, help hold you accountable, help ask some good questions. So if you want to do some coaching, I really would love to hear from you. So today, we are so close to Christmas. We are just a couple of days away. We're going to wrap up this series that I've been doing on, kind of navigating the holidays and some of the things that we deal with during the holidays. But there's one more thing I want to touch on before we do that. There's one more thing that I want to talk about. And, and it's something that doesn't get enough honest attention during the holidays. Really, it doesn't get enough honest attention in general. But during the holidays, it really seems to amplify, and that's loneliness. While this season is often portrayed as full of connection and togetherness and celebration, the reality is that many people feel more alone during the holidays than any other time of the year. It's so true. In the time of the year when we are supposed to feel this connection the most, people can feel the loneliest. And we live in a world where we're seeing numbers continue to increase of people feeling loneliness and isolation. Even though we are more connected to each other through technology and communication, people are feeling more and more alone and isolated. And when we get into the holidays, particularly when we get really, really close to the end of the holiday season, when we get into the big pinnacle moment, when we get past all the shopping and all of the parties and all of the social gatherings, and we start to hone into this time when we get to the holiday itself, it is about, that nuclear circle, that connection. And that's really where people can feel lonely. And so I really want to kind of dig into that a little bit as we go through this episode today. If you're feeling lonely right now, whether you're physically alone or emotionally disconnected, grieving someone, or surrounded by people and still feel isolated, I want you to hear me say this. You are not broken, and you are not alone in feeling this way, okay? You are not broken for feeling alone, and you are not alone in feeling this way. We want to acknowledge the reality with compassion and find ways to move through the season with meaning and connection. And that's what we're about. And that's what I want to do today in this episode. So I want to touch on that a little bit. But first, we want to acknowledge with compassion that we are alone. That's the big thing. Loneliness isn't new. All right. It's not. When people feel lonely, it's not new. Loneliness is deep-seated and long-standing, but the holidays tend to magnify it. And there's a few reasons for this. There's a few reasons why those who struggle with loneliness, it tends to magnify this time of year. First, there's contrast. When the world around you seems focused on togetherness, any gap in connection becomes noticeable. And again, Christmas, the holiday season, it's all about family and gatherings and what have you. Throughout the year, we can kind of fill in that gap with busyness and schedules. But this time of year, the world is really focusing on that singular thing, that togetherness. And if for you that togetherness isn't there, then there's a gap in connection. And it becomes far more noticeable because you see far more pictures of families and gatherings on Instagram and Facebook and social media, and you hear stories and people talk at work. And all of a sudden, the gap in connection that has always really kind of resided there, maybe it's resided there for a little while, is now becoming far more noticeable. The holidays shine a spotlight on who's not there. What's changed and what's missing. That's what the holidays do. The holidays shine a spotlight on that gap. And so contrast is really the first thing that really tends to magnify the holiday season. The second, memory. The season often brings up memories of past holidays. People who used to be part of your life. Transitions that have shifted. Traditions that are now different. Moments that no longer exist in the same way. Grief and nostalgia can walk hand in hand this time of year, and those two things can really amplify loneliness. When we live in those memories and how it used to be and who used to be there, we can feel so terribly alone and isolated. So memory is something that really can touch into that feeling of loneliness. And the third thing I want to touch on is expectation. We are told that the holidays are supposed to be full of joyfulness and excitement and fulfillment. When your internal experience doesn't match the expectation, it can lead to things like shame or self-judgment on top of loneliness. When the whole world around us is saying we're supposed to be happy and joyful and fulfilled, and we see the movies where long lost children reunited with their parents, long lost lovers who really had that unrequited love in high school come back together, all those types of things, those Hollywood magic moments. But you know what? It doesn't always work that way. And those expectations can really weigh down on us. They can make us feel like there's something wrong with us. Like, am I broken? Am I worthless? Am I unlovable? Did I do something wrong? That shame and that self-judgment and that guilt, it can all be heaped on top of that sense of loneliness to begin with. That's why it can be magnified this time of year. And really, as we're coming into December 25th, and that day when everybody's supposed to be gathered around family tables and invited in, the great Dickens Christmas Carol, which I really truly love. And I'm thinking about maybe having my own reading rendition of it for next year. But that the ending, where Scrooge finally comes into family and feels at home after years of estrangement. Those are the types of things that this expectation comes in. This is a time of year when magic is supposed to happen. And it does. Don't get me wrong, it does. But when we hold on to what we're supposed to feel, when we hold on to that we're supposed to feel joyful and welcome, and we don't, then it creates shame and self-judgment, which can be heaped on top of loneliness and just drive us deeper. When we understand why loneliness shows up, it doesn't make it disappear. That's the thing. But it helps us to stop fighting ourselves when we feel it. Look, we feel it. Our feelings are our feelings. I heard someone say once that feelings are neither positive nor negative. They're neither positive nor negative. They're feelings. They're part of us. They're part of our identity. It's what we do with them that makes them positive or negative. So when we stop fighting with ourselves about this feeling of loneliness and just allow ourselves to feel it, to dwell in it and identify it, when we allow it to show up, then we can start to do things. Because one of the hardest parts of loneliness is the story we tell ourselves about it. Many people interpret loneliness as personal failure. Something is wrong with me. I should be happier. I should be more connected. You see that idea, when we feel these feelings and when we make them negative, then we think, I've done something wrong. Something is wrong with me. I should be happier. But loneliness is not a character flaw. My friends, it is a human experience. It is a signal that you value connection. Loneliness is not a character flaw. It is part of the human experience. Everybody feels loneliness at some point in time. Everybody does. It signals that you value connection. And the fact that you feel it means you're capable of deep relationships, not that you're lacking them. Okay? It signals that you're capable of deep relationships. Look, you can be successful and kind and loving and still feel lonely. You can be surrounded by people and still feel unseen. You can be doing all the right things. I'm air quoting right. You can be doing all the right things and still feel disconnected. Releasing the shame around loneliness is a powerful step towards healing. It's a powerful step towards connection. When you stop judging yourself, you can create space for gentleness and possibility. You see, when we feel something and we spend so much energy fighting against it, when we stop judging ourselves, it creates space for gentleness and possibility. Feelings are feelings. They are created inside of us. When we judge them, when we put some kind of judgment on them, that's when we find ourselves really struggling to get through and figure out a path forward. And it allows us to do something about them. Look, when we have a feeling, and if we don't judge it, if we allow it, if we dwell in it and say, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to feel this way. I can change that. So when I'm feeling lonely, I'm not gonna, berate myself or shame myself or heap judgment on myself. I'm gonna do something to change that. I'm gonna do something that doesn't feel so lonely. So what I want to do is talk a little bit about finding some meaningful connections and how to overcome this loneliness on Christmas Day and throughout the year. And look, connection doesn't have to be, big gatherings or full calendars. In fact, most meaningful connection often happens in a much smaller, quieter way. And that is so true. So here's some ways to cultivate connection, during the holiday season, maybe even on Christmas Day and throughout the year. We can carry this forward. It doesn't end on Christmas Day. The first thing is reach out intentionally. You don't have to wait for someone else to make the first move. This is the thing. When we feel lonely and we're judging ourselves, then we just kind of stew in that and we wait for someone else to drag us out of it. We don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You don't have to wait for someone else to make the first move. Sending a message, making a call, or checking in with someone can create unexpected moments of connection. Hey, you got anything to do right now? Hey, just calling to check and see how you're doing, just texting you, whatever. We have the capability of communicating with people. It's about taking the chance, taking the step to communicate with them. So reach out intentionally. Be the one that makes the first move. If you want to move out of loneliness, be proactive about it. Be the one that makes the first move. Be intentional. Because if you sit and wait for someone, look, your friend over down the road, they may be sitting in the same kind of loneliness. And if you're waiting for them and they're waiting for you, neither thing's going to happen. So make the first move. They may say no. Hey, I'm sorry, I'm busy today. That's not a rejection of you. That's just a fullness in their calendar. Make the first move. Reach out intentionally. Another great way is to create connection through service, helping others. Whether it's through volunteering, offering support, or performing small acts of kindness. Those can they can ease feelings of isolation and create a new sense of belonging. Look, Christmas Day, if you're looking at Christmas Day and you're like, I got nowhere to go, I got nobody to be with, it's going to be, Chinese dinner for me tonight because those are the only places that are open. Here's what I would say to do. Wherever you're at, just Google local Christmas dinners because there's a lot of churches and community organizations that put out Christmas dinners. They provide Christmas dinners for members, for the homeless, what have you. Reach out to one of them and say, I'd like to come and volunteer. I'd like to come and help out. Volunteer your time. You don't have to sit around by yourself on Christmas Day. You don't. So volunteer your time. Create connections through service. And there's a lot of service opportunities that happen even on Christmas Day. It's actually one of the biggest service days out there that people can connect with other people. If you're someone who doesn't like big crowds, then seek out one-on-one interactions. Again, reach out to someone. If large gatherings feel overwhelming or isolating, have one-on-one conversations. They feel far more meaningful and grounding. Invite somebody out for coffee. Invite somebody out for lunch. Invite somebody out to go for a walk. I mean, walks are great. Go for an evening walk. Talk to your neighbor. You don't have to necessarily build an intimate relationship, but build a relationship. Seek one-on-one interactions with people, friends, family, coworkers. Build them. But again, this is all about you being intentional. If you're feeling loneliness, okay, and I understand that loneliness can be very paralyzing and it can be very crippling. Well, if you remove the shame and the guilt, if you remove the self-judgment and allow yourself to say, I'm not broken because I'm lonely, I'm just lonely. If you want to move out of that space, then be proactive and intentional. Connect through shared interests. There's a lot of shared interests out there, book clubs and hobbies, faith communities. There's support groups if you have something going on in your life. There's online spaces, and I love online spaces, though sometimes they're just as lonely because you're really not in the proximity of someone. But find those places. Libraries offer them, community centers offer them, churches offer them, universities offer them. If you're in a university town, look at what's on the university schedule. I'm in a university town. I actually have the privilege of teaching at the local university, but they have a lot of things going on. Create connection through shared interest. They're out there. That's one of the beauties of social media is you can find these places. You can find these connections. If you're a Garden Railroad fan, there's a place you can connect with that. If you like Edgar Allan Poe poetry, there's a place you can connect with that. Find them. Be intentional. Be intentional. This is about you stepping out of that judgment, stepping out of that shame, stepping out of that guilt, and saying, okay, I'm acknowledging that I feel lonely, but I don't want to. So what can I do to move out of this feeling? And allow yourself to receive it. Sometimes loneliness persists because we struggle to accept it. We do. Allow yourself to receive it. Allow yourself to receive this feeling. When we resist it, when we push against it, then it creates more and more of a struggle. So just saying, again, without judgment, without any kind of shame, you know what? I feel lonely right now, and I don't want to stay here. So what can I do? Maybe let someone support you, listen to you, or simply be present with you. Loneliness is a feeling just like anything else, and it's something that we can move through. Look, loneliness doesn't need to be fixed right away. It doesn't. Like any feeling, it doesn't need to be fixed right away. First, it needs to be honored. When lonely moments show up, try to respond with kindness instead of resistance. Acknowledge the feeling without judging it. Remind yourself it won't last forever, even if it feels heavy in the moment. It can also help to create maybe some comforting routines. When loneliness sets in, do something that brings sense of warmth or familiarity. A favorite meal, perhaps, or a familiar movie, or a cozy environment, or a reflective walk. These small comforts don't erase loneliness, but they can help you feel held while you move through it. They can help you feel like you're existing and loving and growing while you move through it. Keep in mind, though, that oftentimes we want to bring loneliness and solitude together. They're not the same thing. Solitude can be chosen. We all need time by ourselves, and it can be nourishing. We all need those reflective moments, but loneliness can be painful. But that pain doesn't have to define you. So when you're experiencing loneliness, don't judge yourself. Don't shame or guilt. Just acknowledge it, experience it, love yourself in it, and then be intentional about trying to move through it. Because this time of year, loneliness is far more common than people want to admit. It is. And experiencing it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It doesn't mean you've missed the point of the season. Nope. It means you are human. You are human. We all experience loneliness, even this time of year. So here's what I would like you to do. Here's what I would encourage you to do over the next few days. Be intentional. Reach out to one person this week. Reach out to one person this week, a friend, a family member, a neighbor, someone you haven't talked to in a while. You know what? The joy of Christmas is that it gives you a reason to reach out to someone you haven't talked to in a long time with no excuse whatsoever. You know what? I was thinking about you, wanted to wish you a Merry Christmas. Give that choice. Make that intentional action. Keep it simple. A message, a call. Hey, you know what? I'd really love to catch up after the holiday. Maybe we can go get coffee or have a walk. Connection doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful. As a matter of fact, when it's perfect, it's usually not meaningful. So just connect and be intentional. This is about you taking that step. I know it's hard. I really do. Particularly if you feel that deep sense of guilt and shame. I'm here to tell you, if you're feeling loneliness right now, you're not broken. You're not bad. You haven't done something wrong. You're human, and we all feel it. But we don't have to feel it forever. Be intentional. You can move through the loneliness into something greater. That's what I have for you today, my friends. Remember, you are worthy of connection. You are not invisible. And even in moments of loneliness, there's still room for warmth and meaning and hope. It is so true. So thank you for tuning in. If this podcast is helpful, please put it out there. Put it out there for others. There's others out there that need to hear this message as well. This is not proprietary information. I want everybody to hear it. So share it out there. If you want to reach out to me, GraceLifeCoaching.com is a website. I'd love to hear from you. And at Grace Life Coaching, we want you to be the best you.